What we're going to do next is go into creating what you call a temporary duty parent schedule.
Correct.
And that, I think, is so important for when people continue to reside in the same home while they're deciding what they ultimately want to do before they change the status quo.
I like the term duty parent versus guest parent because no matter what, you're always a 100% parent. You're just on duty with your children a certain amount of time. So you might be on duty on Mondays and Tuesdays, and I might be on duty on Wednesdays and Thursdays. So I know that when I have residential time with my children, I refer to myself as the duty parent. Sometimes parents like to begin to practice that rhythm and give their children an opportunity to understand how the rhythm's going to work, even as they still live in one home. And they can do that by sitting down together, pulling out their calendars, and looking at, okay, when are you going to cover the kids, and when will I cover the kids? And they work together to try and maintain their children's rhythms, maximize parent contact time, but begin to separate as a unit that works together and now become tandem parents that are working separately even as they live in the same home. It's a great way to practice. It's an opportunity for the parent who may not have been in charge of certain parenting functions to learn more. It's a time to build trust. Hey, you didn't think I knew how to make lunches? Well, I'll show you. I can do the best peanut butter and jelly sandwich on the planet, right? So it's a chance then, too, for the parent who has had a lot of the parenting responsibilities in the family to literally download information to that other parent. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think what comes to mind for that, for me, also is the ability for parents to try on new hats, practice these new roles, as opposed to someone maybe who was not in more of a primary role as far as childcare and some of the day-to-day things that keep your house running, I suppose. If we have somebody who's not doing those things and now in a separate household has to begin to do those as well, it's really practice. I mean, I like this temporary duty parent idea because it sets everybody up for success when they finally do decide to move into different residences. And that way, I think it helps the children have a much smoother transition too between homes.
Correct. So we're really talking about skill building, trust building, setting patterns in motion and rhythms in motion, get a feel for what is it like. It also allows parents to begin to individuate some so that, you know, if you're going to be in charge of the children on Tuesdays and you're making dinner and you're cleaning up the kitchen and you're getting homework through and you're getting bath time done and you're doing tuck-ins, I'm going to be a good guest. I'm not going to interfere. I'm not going to make decisions for you. I'm going to let you have that experience of being in charge, of being on duty, and letting the kids also know that if they come to me and say, hey, can I go outside and play? I'll go, oh, your mom's on duty. Go talk to Felicia. She'll let you know if that works for her tonight. So everybody is like training wheels. Everybody gets a chance to do it with extra support before we actually need to implement in a two-home family.
And I think with trial and error, what's so important to emphasize here is we're not only giving the parties permission to redefine their roles and some of the things that go into successfully doing those roles, whereas maybe one of the other parents had done that. How do you change how you identify yourself as a parent? But I think, you know, we want to be careful too with one parent always being the default backup. And so it's a little bit the opposite of what you just suggested. One parent staying in the wings and saying, no, it's mom's turn right now, so mom calls the shots. But it's another for, you know, let's use dad for an example, to say, oh, honey, I didn't get all these things done. Here, you're in the house anyway. Can you go ahead and
do it
and be my backup because you're here anyway and you always did it anyway? So how do you address that piece?
Right. Well, there's those boundaries again, right? Healthy boundaries are, you know, you're no longer my backstop. When we're in a one-home family, and often when we're in a marriage or a committed partnership, you know, we have these kind of ways that we've defined our roles and things that you've always done. And this is really my opportunity to practice being more autonomous. It's a little bit more like when you went on that long weekend and you were away and I was in charge of the kids the whole time. I was in charge from soup to nuts. I wasn't just in charge of part of it. So again, it's practice. It's skill building. It's trust building. It brings rhythms into the lives of kids. And it begins to set the stage for what ultimately might become a residential schedule. And I say might become because we're not there yet. We're just practicing co-parenting in the same house. And at some point, we can talk about things like nesting, where parents rotate out of the house. The children might remain in the home, and the parents may go stay, mom might go stay at her sister's, and dad might go stay at a friend's when they're not on duty. So again, we have our duty parents in the home and our off-duty parent off-site. And that's another version of what can happen in these very early weeks and months without creating so much disruption for kids and giving parents a chance to practice, build skills, build trust. Anytime you can sit down at a coffee shop and work these things out together, that's wonderful. But if you know that you're someone who often says yes when you mean no, or there might be a power imbalance, a lot of tension and difficulty between the two of you, then have a co-parent coach, have a good family therapist, have a mediator or facilitator help you with these meetings. And so we're not only talking about what are we going to do for the next 2 weeks, but we're talking about the similar kind of meeting structure that we're going to use in our next segment when we start to talk about residential considerations. Because just as we begin to educate parents about what goes into a strong and child-centric parenting plan, they're also going to begin to think about these decisions on their own. They're going to start to explore what makes sense for their children in their family under their circumstances. So these very same guidelines that you're talking about, setting an agenda, having time set aside, meeting in a good neutral location, using a facilitator as needed, taking and keeping good notes, making sure that both people can review those notes for accuracy, and then come back with follow-up and evaluation for next steps.
Right.
Well, I'm looking forward to our next piece, our next section of the guidebook, which is where we're going to tackle some of the considerations for residential topics. And we're going to be encouraging you all to walk with us through those tools and emotional preparation and options so that you have discussion points. And you may just take all that information with you to your mediator or your attorney and let them help you build that parenting plan. You might work with a co-parent coach or a divorce coach or a child specialist, and they can guide you through a process as well. There's lots of help out there. But these are just some of the things that you'll be thinking about as you build that strong and child-centered parenting plan for your children.